First of all, good Vok, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Shabbos. Boy, I'm Israel is going out of Mitzrayim. There's a lot happening in this Pasha. You know, um, Rabbi Weiss just mentioned a friend of his who was someone who is a Yid, is deep into Torah, and he said that the only caveat is that uh, the man is into learning philosophical inyanim, into philosophy. I'm not sure even what this particular means, but it reminds me of something that many years ago. Something that I spoke with Rabbi Yaakov Shechter. We mentioned this of Makas Choshech. Makas Choshech, it says that it was 3 days that whoever sat down, 3 days that people could get up and sit down, but they could not go anywhere. Because, they didn't see anything around. It was such a pitch black, they couldn't go or come. And the other half of Makas Choshech, it was another 3 days. Whoever was standing couldn't sit, and whoever sat could not stand up. So comes the question, what's the problem? I don't care how dark it might be. Why can't you sit down and, when you're in standing position, why can't you get up from a sitting position? Also specifically, why does it mention standing and sitting? So the Torah gives an answer, and the answer says V'yamesh choshech, that the darkness acquired an essence, a thickness. It wasn't just a question of just being dark, but it was thick, like a bog. So that's the reason why they couldn't get up and sit down, because they were entrapped, and like somebody was in a bog or in a quicksand, and there's nothing can do. But that doesn't really answer the question. Not in the sense that when somebody who is, when the darkness is thick, that wouldn't prevent someone from staying up or sitting down. It would. But the problem with it is that it really doesn't have anything to do with the lack of light. Meaning, if the reason why they couldn't get up or sit down was because the darkness was thick, it's tantamount to tying them up. Tie somebody up who's sitting on a chair, tie him up, even in broad daylight, he won't be able to get up. Which means the aspect of thickness, the physical impediment of the choshech, has nothing to do with the lack of light, with darkness. It's to do with the physical impediment. But the Torah says, "V'yamesh choshech," that the darkness itself, you know, gained unviscous thickness, mamish. It had the mamoshes. It had an essence, tangible essence. But it doesn't mean that there was just essence. It was the darkness itself gained essence. So we have to understand, what does it mean? So a possible explanation for this is that the first 3 days is easy to understand. People saw outside them, and they saw that. People could not see outside them. The environment was in total darkness, and they couldn't go anywhere. They could sit down, they could get up, but they couldn't go anywhere. But I'm sure there's something that happened to each and every one of us. Do you recall, like, sleeping on your side with your arm like this on the side? And the blood flow to the arm is somehow, slow. And what happens is that your arm falls asleep. When that happens, you don't feel your arm. You don't know if your arm is up as you're lying down and your arm is like this. Is the arm up or is the arm down? You don't know whether it's up or down because you don't feel the arm itself. In order to do a voluntary action, a purposeful action, you have to be aware of where you're now and where do you want to get, which direction you want to go. When the arm falls asleep, you don't know whether the arm is up or down. Therefore, you can't command your arm to go up or down. Because if the arm is up, how do you lift an arm that is already up? It's not within our sphere of experience. Everything is automatic by us. We feel the arm is up, and we want to lower the arm, and without thinking about it, we can just lower the arm. But if we lack the cognition that the arm is actually up, we can't lower it down. Maybe it's down all along. We have no idea. Our muscle memory has no idea how to lower an arm that is already lowered. So in a sense, what you would say that V'yamesh choshech means that the darkness not just, has overtaken their surroundings. They didn't know where they were, and they didn't know where to go to. They didn't see where to go to. But, as it were, that the darkness has overtaken their own mamoshes, their own essence. They no longer could have identified their mamoshes, their mamash, their essence, their physical essence. Am I standing or am I sitting? At such a state, it is impossible to stand up or sit down. Because stand up, maybe I'm standing up all along. Should I sit down? Maybe I'm seated. I have no idea how to sit down when I'm seated. This explanation is the answer So that particular person who is, a ben Torah and knowledgeable and everything else, the minute you get in, but is into philosophy, because philosophy is the 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 tool, the art of the Greek. They are the philosophers, your Aristotle and Plato and Socrates and the rest of the band. Chazal, when they say, about the four different Golios, each one is gets its own euphemism. The Golos of the Greeks is called choshech. It's called darkness. So when Rabbi Weiss tells me that this particular person, feels that he can handle philosophy, it's within his range of competence. The answer is it cannot be. Because the minute that a person steeps himself in philosophy, he steeps himself in darkness. The deeper he goes into philosophy, the greatness that darkness become. And the thing that gets overtaken is this idea, I can handle it or I cannot handle it. Where am I? Am I sitting up or am I standing up or am I sitting down? I can handle it. It's fine. It's within my realm of competence. Rabbeinu says, I'll be noscho al tisha, and this has a lot to do with the Sicha of tonight. So I want to thank Rabbi Weiss for raising this particular issue. So before we get to the Sicha of tonight, let's just, Sipurey Baal Shem Tov. Let's start with the story for tonight and inject bracha into the week. Once says that there was the plague of cholera in the area of the Baal Shem Tov, and the people came to Baal Shem Tov and asked him to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should take away, the plague. Baal Shem Tov told him, listen, there is a village, just excuse me, let me just bring the stender here. There's a village a few miles from here. There's a person in that village whose name is such and such, and his father's name is so and so. So go there, look for him, and when you find him, just don't let him go. Just beseech him. Whatever it is, just tell him until he promises to you, Bezat Hashem, that trouble will leave you. In other words, be a nudnik. Don't be a nudge. Don't let him up until this happens. So the people went looking for him. Obviously, this is a very big tzaddik. Baal Shem Tov says that his gezeres, he says, Kadosh Baruch Hu takes it away. It's unbelievable. When they came to this village, they asked, where is the place of the holy, this name, the son of this name? And they told him, there's no such holy person around here. You don't know who you're talking about. So, again, they asked they asked more people, and after a while, Tamid Baal Shem Tov knew, these people, knew. Baal Shem Tov says there is somebody by that name who can make things happen, then there is such a person. The people of the village don't know, so they don't know, but it doesn't mean that there isn't. himself, one of the people says, there is a drunkard by that name. What do you want from him? He's probably down in drunken stupor in his bed, not knowing, left from right. So the people went to his house, knocked on the door. His wife opened the door. They told him that the Baal Shem Tov sent him from Mezhibush for her husband. So the woman said, the Baal Shem was making fun of you. He says, you see, my husband is dead drunk, lying on his bed. And he said that her husband, used to be immensely wealthy, incredibly wealthy. But he became an alcoholic. He started drinking, and like it happens to a lot of addicts, he lost all his money, and all he does is drink and sleep, and drink and sleep. And he says the minute he gets up in the morning, he takes the schnapps, takes the vodka, takes the whiskey, take whatever it is he did, and drink it immediately, and falls down asleep all over again. That's what he does. And it's been already years like that. She says, if you want to talk to him, you better do it immediately when he wakes up, because the minute he wakes up, starts drinking. When somebody is an addict, the only thing that an addict would do is leave enough whatever substance he's addicted to. So when he gets up in the morning, just first thing first, So these people are in great wonderment. The way her husband, they didn't hear from her any kind of praises that would give any kind of indication, of Kedusha or Malas Tevis or whatever. But since the Baal Shem Tov said so, they waited until the drunkard woke up. The minute he woke up, he sent his hand to the bottle, but they stopped him, took the bottle away. He says, we were sent to you by the Holy Baal Shem Tov that, so that you should ask Kadosh Baruch Hu to take away this curse from us. So the guy said, listen, I'm thirsty. Just let me drink a little bit, and, then we'll attend to business. So they said, no. We're not going to let you until you will, acquiesce, you'll agree, and you will decree that the Magefa will go away. So the drunkard agreed. So the Kodesh Baruch Hu, with his great mercy, will take the Magefa away from you. Now, can you please let me be? Well, they went to Mezhibush. They went back to Mezhibush, and they found out, when the drunkard said that Magefa will leave, it left. So they came to the Baal Shem Tov, and they told him the whole thing that happened, and they asked him to explain to them how is it possible that a drunkard, it doesn't make any sense. So the Baal Shem Tov told him, listen, I want you to realize what is the koich of one single mitzvah. This particular person that I sent you to was a great merchant. One of the big dudes. And he was immensely wealthy. And he was extremely handsome and charismatic. And once he went to the house of a goiter, who was the almona. She was the widow of one of the ministers. When she saw how handsome he was, she said she said to him, "Listen, you're going to be my husband. I want you to marry me. I will be your wife." He says, "What do you need your old wife for?" He says, if you'll join me," he says, "I'm going to give you all my wealth, all my gold, all my treasures, my house, my fields. Everything will belong to you. If you marry me, you'll become a minister. I'm part of the court. You'll become a minister. And not only this, being that you are much smarter than the rest of them, you will become, the most important one, the closest one to the czar, whatever." So the man said, "I'm not going to agree to this unless you prepare a big ball for me and call all the people, all the important people, so they will know me from now on. They'll recognize me, who I am and what I am. So they will know that I became a very important person." So this Almona agreed. She made a big shindig, a big ball, and a lot of ministers came, with waiters in special livery and, with tulip-shaped glasses filled with whatever it is, and all the ladies with their fineries and the ministers and whatever it is. And the entire wedding, the entire, party, was basically all night long. It took almost all night long. And close to daylight, that person actually went, to the sleeping chambers of that widow. But before he was going in there, he had to go, to the outhouse. He had to go to, and he heard voices of woe in groans. They were Jews there that were prisoners because they did not pay their taxes to the widow on time. When he heard the voices of these people, of these Jews, he came close and asked them, why are you prisoners? And they told him. And he had such rachmanos on them that he went to the widow and ordered her to free them all. Just let them go. When the almana acquiesced, she would give all her money to have him as a husband. It wasn't a big deal. Just a few Jews out of jail. B'vakasha, go ahead, go out. The man took a wagon with horses and put, these captives on it and focus into I go home. And he was Mekayah mitzvah pidim shvum. And as you know, mitzvah goreres mitzvah. Mitzvah begets another mitzvah. Once he made he did this mitzvah, he thought to himself, how can I possibly, fall into with this goite now? It's like, am I insane? Am I nuts? He took another wagon, with some good horses, and ran away. At that time, told him Baal Shem Tov, in Shemaim, they judged that particular person. Since he was Isaac in the midst of Pidim Shvim, and he withstood the Nisayan with this goiter, it's befitting for him to be a tzaddik that whatever that is that he decrees will come true. Well, obviously that became a big brouhaha in the Shemayim. Now this person can be, can cancel all the decrees in the world. I mean, he can cancel all the decrees in the world until Midas Adin of judgment can be totally, you know, can be totally wiped out. So Midas Adin cut a deal, and he said that person will become a perpetual drunkard, an alcoholic, an active alcoholic. That he will drink and drink without stop until he won't know what's going on in the world. I have no idea. He says, now, said Baal Shem, now you understand why the decrees and the words of this person come true. Really, it's a big sakana to ask him to decree a Beis Din Mal. But it has to do with Klal Yisrael. It has to do with earth. We had to use it now. We had to use this as a secret weapon, in the case of emergency, break glass. So we had to do it. Now you will know what is the koyach of a single mitzvah. Ad kan, the story of Baal Shem Tov 49. All right. I had a talk with a rabbi from America, and he told me, he's a Litvish guy, and he told me that about Rabbi Nachman. He said that his Rebbe, his Magid Shir, Shiva, I don't know, it was Shiva, Mashgiach, whatever, told him that Rabbi Nachman poo-pooed the, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but the tzaddikim of his generation, the Rebbes of his generation, claiming that they have lost the way of the Baal Shem Tov. They no longer continue the way of the Baal Shem Tov. So I told him, you have to understand. I mean, first of all, poo-pooing is not the right word. Wasn't mavakel them. Rabbeinu was, held in great esteem. The Berditchever, the Balatanya, his uncle Baruch, and all his uncles. Baruch Hashem, there were many great tzaddikim in that generation. So the word, poo-poo is not the right word. But what Rabbeinu meant was very, very evident in this particular story that we learned. We all know that the Baal Shem Tov, the Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, the Baal Shem Tov himself and all his Talmidim, they daven v'sikin every day. They daven with all the koiches for hours. They were making this veidus. There were people that, they breathed, they ate, they slept. Everything was avodas Hashem. With the koich of the Baal Shem Tov, they all were tremendous of the Hashem. You're talking about tzaddikim that reached madregas with the koich of the Baal Shem Tov, and the Magi, they reach madregas that have not been attained. From the days of the Tanoim and the Moraim, we're talking about. Rabbeinu has performed as many moifsim, not only as the Baal Shem Tov, but as the Arizal also. There's a sefer called Shivchei Arizal, and Reb Nosson said that the Arizal, who did a lot more than what's mentioned in the Sefer. And he said, if those miracles that are told about Arizal was all that there was about Arizal, he says from Abena we saw a lot more miracles. I'm talking about. The Baal Shem Tov did two things. First thing is he brought together, the simple folks that were, there was a rift in Am Yisrael. The Chachamim, the scholars went one way, and the Amaratzim, the ignoramuses, they went another way, and there was almost like two nations. In the Baal Shem Tov was Mekarev, the simple people, and that particular story that we just said now was also about the incredible importance of simple people, and he did this person did this incredible mitzvah for one mitzvah, and his geyser, amazing stuff. When you say stories about Shem Tov, invariably these stories would be the story about miracles. You never hear the stories of Avodas Hashem, either of the Baal Shem Tov or of his Talmidim. When you hear stories about Rabbeinu did as many miracles as all of them put together. But he davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that they should all be forgotten. There are a few of them, that were written down, whatever it is, so in Kochvei Or you can find, in Haran every once in a while you can find, but just a few, one here, two there, that's it. The stories that you hear from Rabbeinu is all about Avodas Hashem. What's the proper emunah? How do you daven? How do you learn? How do you handle yourself in the bathroom? What kind of thoughts you have? But everything has to do with Avodas Hashem. Rabbeinu says, this is the way of the Baal Shem Tov. Of course, you have to be mekar of the simple people, because the simple people can get closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu just as the high people. And in a chinami, one mitzvah is worth everything. But that way of the Avodas Hashem aspect of the Baal Shem Tov revolution, that was lost. The tzaddikim were tzaddikim. The tzaddikim were tzaddikim 100%. What it says in Igeres HaTshuva from the Baal Tanya, that I was shown this by the Rav of the Chabad Shul over here. It's not that I know Igeres HaTshuva, to be honest. I never read it before. And he showed me that the Baal Tanya said that any of his Hasidim that davens a regular Yom Chol Tefillah quicker than an hour and a half, just regular work, with tachna, without tachna, whatever it is, in less than an hour and a half, he says he has no permission to come in to listen to the Chassidus the Baal Tanya was saying. An hour and a half davening on a regular weekday. That was the standard. That is obviously lost. That kind of standard is obviously lost. So without further ado, let's take a quick look at the Sicha for today, which ties it all very nicely together. And here we go. This is chapter 103, Sicha number Kuf Gimel. Rabbeinu puts it very, very simple. A principle. Tov Yoisa Lios Pesi Yamin L'chol Davar. It is better to be a fool, who believes everything. Dehainu, in other words, la'amin afilu b'shtusim v'shkarim, also believe in nonsense and in lies, kedei la'amin gam ba'emes, in order so that he will also believe in the truth. This is better than miliyot chacham, to be smart, v'lichpor b'kol, and to make away with everything. In other words, to do away and disbelieve all the nonsense and all the lies. And with this makes leitzanos, that makes a mockery by him out of everything. And he becomes a kafir also in the truth, chas v'shalom. This is what Masechet says. This is the Gemara says, Mutav she'ekr shoyte kol yomai. I'm better off being called a fool all my days. I shouldn't be a Rasha for one single hour before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Obviously, we can see bluntly, widely, openly, what's the problem with philosophy. Philosophy claims to give a person the ability to discern right from wrong by using the power of your own mind. The word that we said in the very beginning, it means other befakert. It does the opposite. It steeps you in such darkness that you don't even know that you're in the dark. Furthermore, the biggest problem with philosophy is that it's like a person who is crazy, and the thing that typifies somebody who is insane is that he claims that everybody else is crazy. He's the only one who actually knows what is what. Philosophy does that because you have to understand, a person will see whatever it is that he wants to see. You can speak to somebody who is incredibly intelligent and smart, sharp as a tack. You talk to anybody who is not from, and even to us, that we are from, but we are not into it, with everything that we've got. You talk to somebody who's not from, he says, you know something? Even if the in of Olam Haba there's a 10% chance that it was true. Obviously, there's at least 50% chance that it was true. That is true, and even more than that. I mean, what's the difference that there's Chaya Olam Hazeh? How come there is in Olam Hazeh? How come there is, I have a body and I have this, and I can think and I can talk? There's this thing in all the animal kingdom. I mean, how can it be that there is a mitzvah in Olam Hazeh? What's the difference in Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba? If there's no Olam Haba, there shouldn't be Olam Hazeh either. Forget about that. But you tell them, listen, what have you got to lose? What do you got to lose? When you go on the road, are you putting on your seatbelt? Of course you're putting on your seatbelt. Why? There's a smidgen of a percent that something will happen, and a smidgen of a percent that a policeman will catch you, but nevertheless, buckle up. Why? Because why take chances? Yet the most important thing, I mean, the only thing that you can be sure of in your lifetime is the fact that it's going to be over one day. And you're going to be faced with the reality of Olam Haba. Take somebody who doesn't believe, at least 50%, a 50% chance. You have opinion whether Netanyahu is good, or Bennett is good, or this one is good, and that is good, and whether the earth revolves around the sun, or the sun revolves around this, you know everything. You know everything about Tesla, everything about Apple, you know everything about this, you know everything. You put your mind into all the shtissim in the world, and you understand the artwork and culinary and this and this and that. But the one thing that's absolutely, and by the way, these are not my words. This is, Blaise Pascal said that. He's a goy, from years ago, one of the greatest scientists of all time, and he said, how can you not worry about whether you have Olam Haba or not? One of the big thing that they throw off and you tell them about Olam Haba, did anybody come back from there? He said, well, did anybody come? Did you ever find out? You never bothered finding out. Why didn't you not? Haven't you ever tried to find out? People did come back. Why did you say? Because it's not a question. It's an answer. They say, you're not allowed to ask questions in Yiddishkeit. What nonsense. You're allowed to ask any question you want as long as it has a question mark at the end. And not an exclamation mark at the end. Anybody come back from there? It's an exclamation mark. Well, did you find out when you came back from there? No, you didn't. You never did. Well, because you don't want to look at it. You see what it is that you want to see. Even if you looked, you would see what you want to see. And by us as well. The reason why I don't put my everything into my Beis Hashem is because somewhere in my mind it's still in the dark. Somewhere in my mind is, maybe it's not such a big deal, a little this, a little that, and something that's real tasty, sushi, whatever. Well, each one according to his own personal shtissim. Because we refuse to put our all into there is Olam Haba. There is Olam Haba, and everything depends on that. When I have a filthy thought in my head, I just learned to say today was scared the daylight out of me. He says that's all, the only thing that the Sitra Achra wants is the lust in the thought. That's it. It doesn't want any more than that. It doesn't want any consequences. It doesn't want any deeds. It doesn't care about that. Just the lust that passed through my mind. That is what the Sitra Achra wants. That's it. And it already gives birth to ruchos, to spirits. Sitra Achra. Gewaltige Sache. What a scary thing. What the Zohar says about that. And I'm thinking in my mind, and I'm just like, what's a big deal? And it's just me, between me and me, what's a big deal? Huge deal. Believe it? Not believe it? Rabbeinu says, listen, you're better off believing in nonsense and in lies. Because you're just this fool that anybody can fool. And believe in the truth. And be so discerning to the point that even the truth becomes a joke for you. There's a lot of davening to be done on that. That Hashem Yisborach should help us all. That we'll have this simple emunas tzadikim, emunah in Kadosh Baruch Hu, emunas tzadikim. Every day, wake up in the morning, the first thought in your head, there is Olam Haba. There's not just Olam Hazeh, there's Olam Hazeh, take care of things, to Ishtadlus, but there is Olam Haba. Just remember, you say the first thing in the morning, before Moedeani, there is Olam Haba. There is Olam Haba. And B'koach Rabbeinu B'ezrat Hashem, we'll hold on, and we matzliach with everything that you do. B'ezrat Hashem, yeah, we do. B'ezrat Hashem, next we will meet in Hashem on Monday, learning Maisa Mechocham V'tam, the Maisa of the sophisticated and the simpleton, and very, very important, has to do obviously with this Sichos this week as well. I wish you all, B'ezrat Hashem, a good vach, and a lot of atzlacha with everything that you do.